Bryce Canyon is not technically a canyon at all, but consists of a series of giant amphitheatres. Unlike other canyons, it's not been created by the erosion of a central river, but rather through erosion by ice and rain. A striking feature is the multitude of a type of rock spire known as hoodoos, in a greater concentration than seen anywhere else in the world. The area was declared a national monument in 1923 and 5 years later was designated a national park. Due to its relative remoteness, it receives only about 2.5 million visitors a year, which is less than half the number that go to Grand Canyon. Spires and pinnacles that rise to a peak are features found elsewhere in deserts, but hoodoos are different, having the protection of an erosion-resistant stone cap, which gives them their characteristic knobbly appearance, a little bit like a totem pole. Once the hard cap falls off though, the rest is very quickly eroded to a pile of dust. They are sometimes given the name fairy chimney, or in French, rather charmingly, demoiselles coiffées, which translates as bridesmaids with attractively styled hair. The Paiute Indians had a mythology that the hoodoos were the legend people, whom the trickster coyote had turned to stone. Bryce Canyon itself has been described as poetry in stone. There is a mile-long rim trail with views down to the main amphitheatre. At between 8,000 and 9,000 feet up, the whole park is at a high altitude, but unlike Grand Canyon, with its mile from rim to valley floor, here it is only about 800 feet down, making exploration of the base a rather more practical proposition for day visitors. There are a number of loop trails down there, with tempting names such as Peekaboo Trail, Queen's Garden Trail and Fairyland Loop, and there are links between these. Easy access routes have been created using zig-zag paths. Easy to go down, that is, but not quite so easy for some less fit people when it comes to getting back up, partly because of the lower oxygen levels at the high altitude. As you descend the trail, the hoodoos, fins and walls look even more impressive with the backdrop of contrasting blue sky. One distinctive hoodoo with a block head has been given the title of Thor's Hammer. I did the combined Navajo Queen's Garden Trail, starting from Sunset Point and returning to the rim at Sunrise Point. I found it a little amusing to watch the other hikers crisscrossing the trail. The very tall tree here is a Douglas fir. There have been several major rock slides in the last decade, which have resulted in trails having to be closed or rerouted. This narrow corridor, named Wall Street, is one example of closure, although it is still possible to venture a short way up to see two natural stone bridges. Down in the amphitheatre, the main trees are the low-growing pinyon pines and junipers. Branching off the Queen's Valley Trail is a short stub trail where you're supposed to be able to envisage Queen Victoria looking out over her garden. Queen Victoria herself, however, never visited the USA. As I commented earlier, the hoodoos are created by erosion. In the summer, it is caused by rain, especially during thunderstorms. In winter, it is the process of water getting into cracks, freezing, and then thawing, with a resulting expansion widening the cracks. This process is called frost wedging. Also, the rain in the area tends to be acidic, which speeds the erosion process. While hoodoos are the dominating rock feature, there are others too in the form of arches, natural bridges, walls and windows. The canyon gets its name from Ebenezer Bryce, a native of Dunblane in Scotland. He was part of a small group of Mormons who settled in the area in the 1870s and farmed cattle there. Given the maze created by the rock formations down in the amphitheatre, he is reputed to have said that it was a hell of a place to lose a cow. The colours of the rocks range from pale cream through pinks and ochre to a deep orange, depending on the type and proportion of iron ores in the rock. Hoodoos can be up to 150 feet high. The most durable hoodoos are capped by dolomite, but even they are constantly eroding, and once the cap rock has gone, the spires soon collapse to become just piles of dust. Back up on the rim, I saw another example of the constant erosion, with trees like this Utah juniper having their root systems exposed. Somewhat later in the day, I returned to the canyon, hoping to catch a good sunset, but although the shadows lengthened, the colours did not really materialise. Having viewed the main section of amphitheatres on foot on the first day, I returned the next morning with my car to check out some of the more distant viewpoints. It is a 19-mile drive from Fairyland Point in the north to Rainbow Point in the south, with a series of viewpoints along the way. The south end is the highest part of the park, rising to over 9,000 feet. Ponderosa Point gets its name because it overlooks a mass of ponderosa pines, part of the giant Dixie Forest, which covers 2 million acres and stretches for about 170 miles across southern Utah. There are a number of scenic side trips possible from Bryce Canyon. There is a cave and a waterfall just to the north of the main amphitheatre along Scenic Byway 12. Mossy Cave is a large alcove with an underground spring providing a constant supply of water, allowing moss to grow. This may look like a natural river flowing through Water Canyon, but is in fact part of a man-made irrigation canal called the Tropic Ditch. It was created in the late 19th century by Mormon pioneers to supply water to the Canyonville and Tropic communities. The little waterfall is created by a ledge of hard rock called dolomite. Just to the east of Bryce, the Sign Kodachrome Basin gave expectations of a colourful landscape, but in reality some of the rock formations were rather drab. The desert plants, however, did their best to add some colour. Long ago the basin had been like Yellowstone Park, with hot springs and gushing geysers, and the distinctive rock fingers or sedimentary pipes are a legacy from that era. There are said to be 67 of them in the park, with heights of up to 50 metres. Red Canyon, a dozen miles west of Bryce, was again a more colourful area. Here the pair of arches through the red rocks had been created by man rather than by nature's efforts. The contrasting green of ponderosa pines added to the canyon's scenic attraction, but it was now time for me to move on to the next canyon on my tour.